Okay, this is a video to show how to do the griddle modifications used for mason jar diffusions. There's a pretty succinct description of how to do it in technical note 0201, but it can still be confusing just from that description, so we're going to make a video. I will also have a file that accompanies the video. I just suggest you print it out so that you can look at it as you do this procedure. It's a lot more detailed, and it has kind of a few tips and tricks for how to get some of this stuff done. The first thing that we're going to do to make these modifications is to reconfigure the stock controller. So this piece here is the stock controller. It's usually just plugged into the griddle. You're going to pull it out, and we need to open it up. To open it up, there's 4 screws on the back. You're just going to take those 4 screws out, and this back piece is going to pop off. This is what the inside looks like before we make modifications. What we're going to do is we're going to cut this black line here, and we're going to cut this line here. And then we're going to solder them together. So a good thing to keep in mind is you have to have overlap to solder, right? So when you go to cut these lines, don't cut them towards the bottom or towards the end. You're going to want to cut them pretty close so that when we go to connect them, you have overlap. Once you cut these 2 lines, this piece here, the thermocouple, is going to come out pretty easily. This is what it looks like once you've taken it out. We don't need this piece for anything, so you can go ahead and discard this. We won't be using it in the future. So when you're finished, it should look something like this. And you can see we have the solder joint here with the 2 lines connected. These are all the modifications that you need to make to the stock controller, so it's actually finished. Once you feel comfortable that your solder is cooled down, you can go ahead and put the back piece on. 2 notes. The first one is make sure that these pieces here are seated properly. Sometimes they like to slide down, and that will cause issues later. You want to make sure they're seated. Another note too is if you're not using the West Bend model, you could run into some issues, and this is the start of where you're going to start running into issues. Some companies, what they'll do is they'll fasten the dial on to the thermocouple, that part that we took out, and so when you go to take it out, it's not going to come out very easily. We actually have some griddles here in the lab that had that type of design, and what we did was we just broke it off. So that's an option. But again, if you're using the West Bend, it's pretty straightforward and pretty easy. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do to complete the modification is to basically wire all this stuff together. So you're going to have your A419, you're going to have the dimmer switch, and then you're also going to have the 2-gang outlet. The easiest thing to start with, in my opinion, is the A419, and to get this mounted onto the box that we're going to be assembling all this stuff in. To do that, you're going to need a connector, and it's going to go on this top port. So you just screw it in, and then I would take a wrench and tighten that down. You want that to be pretty sturdy. To open this up, there's 2 screws on the bottom. The older ones have 4 screws, I believe, but this is the newer one, so it has 2. Once you remove either the 2 or the 4, it's going to open up, and it looks something like this. And if you'll notice, there's a hole in the bottom here, and that's what our connector is going to go to. And that's also what all of our wires are going to feed into as well. So you're just going to place this here on the connector, and then you'll take the collar. What do I do with that? There it is. The collar, and you're just going to fasten that on there. You'll notice that the collar has tabs on it. What I would do is I would tighten that down with your finger, and then you can take a screw and a hammer and tighten that down really firm, because you don't want this thing to be flopping around. Okay, so we have A419 mounted to the box. So the next thing that we need to do is complete the wiring process. So the The first thing I'd like to do is go over the types of connections we're going to make. So if you look inside the A419, there's a series of 6 ports here. I'm going to be numbering these 1 to 6. They're also described in the same way in the file, so if you're confused about the ordering, go ahead and look there. There's also going to be a couple screw nuts that we'll need to use, but you should have gotten a couple of those with the dimmer switch, so you don't need to get those separately. The first connection that we're going to make is the line cord to A419. So to do that, you're just going to feed the line cord in through the back through a 3/8 inch clamp. I wouldn't tighten that clamp down until we're finished with the wiring, just so that you have more wiggle room when making these connections. There should be 3 wires with the line cord. We have a black one, a white one, and a green one. What you're going to do is feed the black one up through into the A419 and connect it to port number 3. So that's not the only thing that needs to go in there. We also need to make a connection between port 3 and port 4. So go ahead and cut a piece that you need there and fashion it into a U. We used a red wire here. And you'll put both the black wire from the line cord and the red wire from our U in there, and you'll clamp that down, tighten it with a screwdriver. And the other end of that U is going to go into port number 5. And that is the first connection that we need to make for this modification. Okay, so the next connection that we need to make is from the A419 to the dimmer switch, and then from the dimmer switch to the 2-gang outlet. So the first thing you'll want to do is to put an extension on one of the black wires. It doesn't matter which one from the dimmer switch. So you'll have the 2 black wires and the green one here. So pick one of the black wires, put an extension on it with a screw nut, and this is going to feed into A419 up into port 6. So again, make sure you have enough length there. Once that piece is on, you can go ahead and connect the 2-gang outlet to the dimmer switch. You're going to want to make sure this is all oriented properly. So when it's all said and done, you're going to have the 2-gang outlet on the right side of the box, and you're going to have the dimmer switch on the left, and you want the wires of the dimmer switch to be in the up orientation. So it might help to get them in this order and then bring that around, and you want that wire to go behind. You don't want it to come up front, over across, because then you're not going to be able to put the plate on. And you're going to make the connection from the other black wire, the one that doesn't have your extension on it, to the brass side of the 2-gang outlet. And it should be configured like this. So as of now, the green doesn't have anything connected to it. One of the blacks has an extension with the screw nut, and the other black is connected to the brass side of the 2-gang outlet. Okay, so all those connections have been made, and we're going to go ahead and mount the 2-gang outlet into the box. So to do that, again, you're going to want it to be on the right side, and you'll fasten it with 2 screws here. You'll also notice that I have gone ahead and put the extension that we made from the dimmer switch into port 6. So again, that's feeding back behind. And again, you'll see I don't have any wires that are coming up in front of the 2-gang outlet, which is important. I'm not going to fasten this because we have a couple more connections to make, but I wanted to clarify this orientation before we move forward. Okay, the next thing we need to do is to connect all the grounds together. So to do that, you're going to need a brass piece with a loop at the end. And you need the loop because we're going to be connecting to the 2-gang outlet, specifically on the green ground screw here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect this brass piece to the green screw there, and then we're going to take the end of that brass piece, the end of the green from the line cord, and the end of the green from the dimmer switch, and screw nut all 3 of those things together. So to clarify, we have, again, the two greens and the brass connecting to the ground on the two gangs. So this is what it should look like. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make the last couple connections. We're almost there. You're going to need a wire. I have a red one here. And what this wire is going to do is it's going to connect to the silver side on the two gang outlet with port number 2. The glitch is that we also have to get the white cord from the line cord to come up through A14 and also go into port 2. So if you look at everything that we have connected, you should have just the white cord left from the line cord. Again, you'll need to push that up through into A419, and that's going to need to connect at port 2, which is this one right here. And then I'm also going to take this piece here, I'm going to also put it into port 2, and the terminal end of this is going to go into, it's going to hook around. I'm going to use a needle nose plier to loop it and put it onto the silver side of this two gang outlet. Okay, so just to show you guys what those connections look like, we have the white cord from the line cord that's coming up into port number 2, as well as, it's kind of hard to see, but there's a red line back there too that's also in port 2 coming down and connecting to the silver part. Man, that's hard to see. The silver part on the two gang outlet. So once that's complete, that's really all of the connections that you need to make inside the outlet box. There's a couple more things that we need to connect up top, but I'll go over that later. So I would just make sure that everything is connected, maybe go over the connections again to make sure you have everything correctly oriented, and then you're just going to mount everything. So you'll take some screws and get this mounted here, and then we have a plate here that we will also fasten to the top. Okay, so all the bottom part has been done, and I've gone ahead and placed the plate on the outside of the box. You can also put on the knob. You can choose between the two they give you of beige and white. It doesn't matter. I like the white one because it matches, but it's alright. And really, we're almost done. We just have a couple more connections we need to make, and they're all focused up here at the top of A419. So you'll notice over here we have something that looks familiar, something we work with down here with these ports. I've numbered these 7, 8, and 9. Again, the same as in the file, so if there's confusion, look there. And this is where we're going to be connecting the thermocouple. But before we do that, we need to reconfigure this, because when you buy it, it comes as a cooling configuration at top, and we want the heating configuration. So this is going to be a little bit tricky to see from the video, so if you're having issues telling or kind of deciphering what I'm trying to do, I would highly recommend looking at the file, because I believe it's a lot more clear. I put pictures in, and I think it's straightforward. But I'm going to go ahead and try to explain this on the video. So if you look at the top, what you're going to see is 3 prongs. One of them is up and down, and then there's 2 parallel ones that are to the right. Yes, the right. Basically, this one right here is going to stay the same, and these 2 parallel ones need to move. So these covers are only covering 1 prong each, but if you'll notice, just to the right, there'll be 2 prongs that aren't covered. For this to be the heating configuration, we need all of those prongs to be covered. So to do that, you're just going to remove these covers by pulling straight up. It's important that you pull straight up. You can see it kind of pulled it out a little bit. You're going to pull straight up and simply move it over so that it's covering 2 prongs, okay? So this is what they look like when you pull them out. They're just these kind of black covers. And you're going to move it over. So if you take them off, you can see it's going to be really hard to see, but there's just 4 prongs there. So at first it was just the 2 on the left that were covered. Now we're going to move the cover so that all 4 are covered. So let me go ahead and do that. And again, you want to be gentle with this because obviously if those prongs get bent, that's going to be a problem. Okay, so this is the new configuration. You probably can't tell any difference, but if you'll see, there's no prongs on the right that aren't covered. All 4 of those are covered. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is to attach the thermocouple to the A419. You're not going to need to use all this length, so I would maybe not take it out of the little twisty ties here because it'll just make it a lot nicer and neater whenever you go to use it in the lab. With this thermocouple, you'll see this is the thermocouple end, right? So this is what's going to go into the sleeve that goes to the griddle that heats the unit. This piece, or this end that has 2 leads here, is what we're connecting to A419. And what you're going to do is, if you'll notice on the side of this unit, there's an indent for wires to go in. And what we're going to do is make the connection here and connect into 8 and 9. It doesn't matter which one goes in which port, you just want 1 in each. So you'll go ahead and do that. And another trick about this connection is you don't want a lot of strain on this. You don't want the support to be coming from the set screws in here. You want it to be pretty firm. So what we do is we have a grommet, and I'll get a finished one of these so you guys can see. You'll put the grommet, let me see here, yeah, you'll put the grommet on the outside of the unit, and then you'll notice that we have a zip tie here that we zip tie the lead from the thermocouple into the unit on the outside. And this again is just making sure that it's, the strain is on the zip tie, it's not on the set screws from the bare leads. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And once that's finished, you're really done with the wiring. The hard part is over. So I'm going to go ahead and make that connection there. And then I'll go ahead and close this up and put the screws back on. Okay, so the last thing that we need to do is to mount the thermocouple into the griddle. And to do that, you're going to need to make a sleeve. This is what the sleeve looks like. It's just got a hole there. The purpose of that hole there is so that the set screw, which we've placed here, can go through that hole and then basically pin down the thermocouple in place. It's important that you don't tighten that screw down too tight because you don't want too much pressure on the thermocouple. You just want it to kind of lightly pin it in place. So yeah, this is just going to go up inside that canal, and then you'll tighten down the screw, and then put the thermocouple in there, and then tighten that down once that's in there. And the last thing that we need to do is to ensure that this wire is not going to interfere with these heating elements, because if this, is up against this heating element, it's going to melt the wire, which is no good. There's 2 different ways you can do that. You could put an asbestos pad under here like this, and then it's going to keep it from touching both sides. Another way, and I think kind of my preferred way, would be to use the leg here. You can drill a hole in the leg and then put a zip tie through the hole and kind of pin this here like that. So once you've done that, then you can plug everything in. So the stock controller is going to go back in where you would normally plug it in. Then the end of the stock controller is going to be plugged into the 2-gang outlet. And yeah, the last thing to do will be to set the dimmer switch. So you can use a voltage reader, and you're going to want to set that to 67 volts. And that's how you do all the modifications.